Hello, welcome to the Gilshrat channel. My name is JB, and in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at two Shinkansen train sets from Tomix. So the first set, this was the first one I purchased, and this is the JR Series 0-2000 Shinkansen set. So this particular train, it is the bullet train, but this was a version that was built in the mid-80s. So this was kind of towards the middle end of the original bullet train run. The other set that I want to take a look at was one that I found a couple weeks ago, and this is the JNR Series 0 Shinkansen. So this is actually a model of the original 1964 bullet train. So we'll go ahead and take a look at both of these. They're both very similar in design, and they're both made by Tomix. And I'll go over the key difference between the two models of this particular train.
Of all the Japanese trains ever made, the most world-famous one is the 1964 bullet train, or as it is known in Japan, the Shinkansen, the new trunk line. Beginning operations on October 1st, 1964, in time for the Tokyo Summer Olympics, the Shinkansen became the world's first designated high-speed rail system, with trains reaching speeds of 130 miles or 210 kilometers per hour. The first segment of the system, the Tokaido Shinkansen, runs between Tokyo and Osaka via Nagoya, Japan's two largest population centers. Before the opening of the Shinkansen, it took passengers 6 hours and 40 minutes to travel between Tokyo and Osaka via the Limited Express. The Shinkansen shortened this time to 3 hours and 10 minutes by 1965. The concept of the Shinkansen dates back to the 1930s, when railroad officials and engineers considered the current rail system, that with its 3-foot 6-inch gauge and winding curves that cut through Japan's mountainous terrain, was impractical for high-speed express passenger service. The idea was to construct a whole new rail network built to 4-foot 6-inch standard gauge, which creates greater stability for high-speed trains than narrow gauge, and to utilize tunnels and bridges to create a straighter and more direct right-of-way needed for high-speed rail. Before the tides of war changed for Japan in World War II, there was even discussion of building a line between Beijing, China, and Tokyo via an underwater tunnel between Japan and Korea, a colony of Japan at the time. However, after the war, many officials began to see rail as outdated and believed the future of transportation was in air travel and extensive highway systems like in the United States and Europe. However, the president of Japanese National Railroads, Shinji Soho, remained convinced that high-speed rail would be beneficial for Japan, and beginning in the 1950s campaigned tirelessly for its construction until it was approved by the Japanese government in December of 1958. Construction would begin the following April. While there have been many updated versions of the bullet train, including the construction of a new maglev system to hopefully begin operation by the late 2020s, the original 0 Series bullet train from 1964 still remains the most iconic.
So I want to save the best for last, meaning the original 1964 Shinkansen bullet train. So we'll first start by taking a look at the JR Series 0-2000 Tokaido Sanyo Shinkansen. So I purchased this at a hobby shop in Tokyo back at the beginning of April when I visited. And at the time, I did not know better. I did not know the difference between a 0-2000 series and original 0 Series Shinkansen. So I will show you the difference here in just a second. So first, let's take off the sleeve, and we'll pop this open. And of course we have the paperwork, so we'll move that out of the way. And you can see there are 6 cars in this set. Originally this set only had 4 cars, and I purchased 2 add-on cars. And if you look, you can see there's these little foam inserts here. You can pull these out and put a total of 8 cars in this particular packaging. So if I were to buy a few more, I could stick them in here. So I did that so that they're all together. So this is the first set, And let's go ahead and take a look at the original Shinkansen bullet train. So we have this, and this was the let me put that in the camera, so JNR Series 0 Tokaido Sanyo Shinkansen. So the difference between the JNR and the JR was the JNR, which stands for Japan National Railway, was the government-run railroad system following World War II. And it operated up until the mid-late 80s, and after that it was split up and privatized, and the later versions of the rail system just became simply known as JR, or Japan Rail, and it was split up into multiple companies, including JR Central, JR East, JR West. So if you're looking at purchasing a Shinkansen model, you'll want to make sure, if you want the original, you want one that's labeled JNR, because that was the rail system operating in the 1960s when the original Shinkansen came into being. So we'll go ahead, and actually I'm going to pop this open again so I can show you the difference. And we'll open this up, and I got the paperwork. So if you take a look at both of these, just from, okay, so if you just take a look at both of these, just from a quick look at it, they don't really look any different. They're very, very similar looking, but if you take a closer look, you will notice some minor differences in details. The first and most obvious is the size of the windows on the rail cars. So if you notice, in the original Shinkansen, they have these large rectangular windows, whereas the 2000 series, a later version, has these smaller, more square-sized windows. So this is the biggest difference between the two as far as the actual model itself. Otherwise, the paint scheme is very similar. You have the bottom part is in blue, you have this blue stripe going with the white background. However, you'll also notice on the later version, this car here, and you'll see it has that little green, kind of looks like a clover, and these are called green cars, and these are the first class cars on the JR system. They hadn't produced or introduced the green cars when the Shinkansen originally was put into service. So those are the main differences that you'll notice as far as the aesthetics of the model. Functionally, they are built a little bit differently, and I'm not going to really go into that in this video, but there's another video that I've made showing my conversion of these to DCC, and in that video I actually take them apart and you can see the difference, the slight difference in the mechanisms of how they operate and how they were put together. When I converted these over, this one, the original, the 1964 Shinkansen, is complete. I have completely converted this over to DCC. This one here, I started and I'm 2/3 complete. I have a decoder in the motor car. So if you remember from one of my previous videos, in these models, they will power just one car. And let's see if I can figure out which one it is. It's this one. So this might not show up very well on camera, but if you look really careful, you'll see that the bottom part underneath this car is just a box. So I'll pull it out to make it a little more obvious on camera. So see that that's just a box. That's where the actual motor mechanism is located, is in there. And all the other cars are non-powered. So I pop this one out, and you will see that underneath it just has the details. So there actually is no motor in this car. And the end cars themselves don't have a motor either. But they do have a light board for the end lights. and you do have to put a decoder in there as well. And both of these models came with directional lights. So they have, I believe they're either resistors or diodes in them, and depending on which way the current goes, they turn on either the red light for the end light or the clear light for the headlight. And like I said, I'll talk about that more in the video about converting these to DCC, but it required a little bit of a workaround to set these up to be DCC. But yeah, I'll talk about that in the other video. So that's the main differences between these two. Also, one difference you will notice is I have this car here that appears to be missing windows, and from what I understand, I believe this was the conductor's car. So this, of course, there's a siren in the background, but that's what happens when you live off of a main street. Anyway, so I believe this was like the conductor's compartment area. I believe that's what I read. I might be wrong on that, but I believe that's why it's missing windows there. So yeah, so let's go ahead and I'll hook these up on the layout and let you see them run. Alright, so I got them both on the track, and I'll let you take a look at seeing them run. So first I will start the original Shinkansen, which is on the outside track. So we'll go ahead and start that one. You can see it runs pretty good at medium slow speeds. Alright, let's go ahead and start up the 2000 series one.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like this or are interested in Japanese trains or trains in general, I invite you to please subscribe to this channel. You can also check out my website at gilshrat.info. Additionally, I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/Gilshrat and Twitter at twitter.com/Gilshrat channel. And once again, thanks for watching.